And the intro gets another guest. Put him on the list. But, Greg, you are looking snazzy today. Where did you get those?
Well, thank you. Well, actually, I was going to talk about this a little bit. We went to this...
did you notice I've given you the opening?
Yes, thank you. Well, we went to that... I don't know if our guest has ever been to this. We'll
keep
talk
him
about
a mystery
it.
for a minute.
In Penn Yan, the windmill shopping place.
Yep.
Okay, so it's really cool. It's country style, coffee shops and Amish things and bakeries, but they have some really cool clothes and picked up some tie-dye stuff.
Is that where you got the cargo shorts?
No, the cargo shorts were just in the closet, but they're the longest ones I have, so I wanted. But anyway.
Check it out. Endorsed by Greg. He gets like $5 from every
That's right.
I actually saw midget wrestling.
I got shorted on it, too, last month.
I saw midget wrestling, and there was the little Amish man. I came to churn butter and kick some ass. But it's summer in Rochester and the carnival. It's warming up a lot. So since it's warming
Holy crap,
up,
it's
who can we
as
pick
hell
as a
out there.
good guest that fits that thing? And we're very, very happy to welcome Tony Infantino.
Hey, Tony.
Hello.
And we have to take a break from the program because I have to announce that Dr. Demento has retired. And I grew up with them. And I'm sure both you have some memories, I hope, of him. Are you listening to him?
Yes, of course. I was never a big fan of Dr. Demento because he was just weird.
Standing right here.
I mean, he was fun, but I remember now, I started out at Magic 92, and then we went to CMF. And I don't remember. You were telling me earlier, you think he was on Magic?
This is always like I say, look it up because I'm not sure. But like Mike Murray mentioned, we'll listening to him on 1280 HAM, but I remember it was a Sunday night before school was Rockline. It might have been something else before that. It was Dr. Demento, but it was on MJQ at the time.
I've still got King Biscuit Flour Hour.
Flour Hour.
Those used to come in on big, huge records.
Oh, yeah?
Big, like albums.
I know, it's funny, I've got a couple of those. They're like demo albums from stations, and they have commercials on them and stuff.
Can you explain that for someone like the listeners that are younger folks, King Biscuit Flour Hour? Because I was like on the trail.
Well, they were concerts.
They were live concerts.
That's what they were, concerts, okay.
Yeah. So I still have a bunch of those on cassette.
Remember,
back
in the
old
days,
when you
like
steal everything.
In the old days, you just listen to who's going to be the concert on late night? Put the cassette in, get the concerts. It's all right now though because the statute of limitations is gone.
I used to love what was the one on TV that they had? Burt Sugarman's Midnight Special.
Midnight Special. Yep.
And Night Flight, those and everything. But how did everything start for you in the radio?
I've been doing this since I'm 4 years old. Okay, I literally I remember this is a memory as I was a little boy, and I didn't remember this until I was on a vacation. I was in Italy with my wife and my mother, and she took her best friend, and we were with a group of people. And one night, my mom's friend Jenny said to me, she goes, I remember when you were a little boy, your mother would come over, and you'd be in the back seat with your little record player and a stack of 45s. And as soon as she said that, I remembered that little record player.
Wow.
And I had 45s where it comes in. They were all in different colors, okay, back then too.
Yeah.
And I was playing. That's how I did it. And then so I always just. It was always in my head that I was going to be on the radio. I went to college to become an English teacher, but when I walked into my college radio station, all bets were off, and I never did the teaching thing, of course.
You and I actually went to MCC.
I know, together. I remember you there.
Yep.
And then I went to Geneseo after that, and I kept while I was working going to school in Geneseo, I got a weekend gig down in Montour Falls. You know where that is?
Oh yeah, I played there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where is it?
It's next. It's like a suburb of Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it's a little past by the falls and the cliffs.
It's a gorgeous. Now here's the thing: the radio station was on top of the highest hill. And the antenna was two telephone poles that were somehow connected together with a huge wire going up. And it was connected right to this trailer, like a mobile home, right?
Built by Ben Franklin, probably.
Trust me. So when the lightning storms would come, I'd put on an album. I'd go sit in my car because I knew that. And we would get lightning storms like crazy. And to get it, I'm allergic to bees, and the place was infested with wasps.
Wow.
So I would roll up a Billboard magazine. Remember Billboard magazine?
Yeah.
And I would swat my way into the control room and then close the door and stay in there for 6-hour shifts, noon to 6 on Saturday, noon to 6 on Sunday.
Killed with the Hot 100.
I'm picturing, and God rest his soul, Lou Christie just passed away.
I know.
And I pictured you playing a certain song when that happens. The irony of life.
Yeah, but it was a beautiful view of Seneca Lake. You could see it all the way disappearing into the sky. It was just a gorgeous.
It's a beautiful place.
But it was my first gig, and then I got a gig the day I graduated from college. I got a gig at a place called WENY in Elmira, and I worked there for 5 months till I got my first gig in Rochester at Magic 92.
What's the, I've always wondered, what's the journey like, from going to the small market, and how do you get the big markets to be interested in things like that?
We always, back then we had trade magazines, and you could see who had openings. And so you would send a tape. And then I found out through someone that there was a WBFB, which was a classical station owned by the same people as WBBF, and they were changing. They went to all news WNWZ for about 5 minutes. Back then it didn't work, especially on FM. Okay, we're talking 1976.
Yeah. The world sucks. The end.
Yeah, right. So then they were going to go to this. It was kind of like a jazz soft rock format at first before it went hard rock. And so I sent, and here's the thing that got me the job. I mean, my tape was pretty good, I think, but also my cover letter.
Okay.
Basically, and my program director told me, he said, "This is what got you the job." He said, I sent the letter and said, "Help, I'm being held for very little pay in Elmira, New York."
No, stuck in Lodi again.
Yeah. So he liked that and listened to the tape and hired me.
I know this is like a transience to radio and working in it a lot. Like a good friend of mine, Mark Rialdi, he studied that. He was working at a station in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Then 6 months later.
Yeah, you bounce around. I didn't want to do that. And as you can tell, people, listen, Spezzano's been here for almost as long as me. Weeze has been here. I've been in Rochester since 1970. I mean, I grew up here, but I've been on the air since 1977.
I find that amazing.
You get to a place you like. And I didn't want to be that kid that saw his parents twice a year. Yeah. And my family was tight. Listen, a tight Italian family. I mean, we got together every Sunday and all that stuff. Right. So and plus, two reasons why I had opportunities to get out of town, but 2 reasons. One, especially when I was young, I was getting calls at 23 years old to go work in these major markets, and I thought, I'm not good enough yet. I'm not seasoned. I'll get beat up. Right. So I didn't do it. And then when I started getting called, then places that I was working would just start throwing money at me to stay, and so okay, I'll do that. But also, I got to be honest, there's a little fear in there because of the unknown. I like being around people I know, and I know everybody here. And I also didn't want to. I didn't care about talking about my life to people who I didn't know.
Right.
Because that's what my show is. We talk about our lives,
Yeah, that's what makes it personable.
Yeah.
People like it. It's like your buddy in the morning.
Yeah. So I didn't want to do that to people. I had no idea who they were and that people are similar everywhere, but I just thought, I know everybody here and everybody knows me and it's fun.
I think people I've known friends like this where for their jobs, they end up there and, okay, where's so-and-so? Oh, in Ohio. Oh, now in L.A. Mm-hmm. And what they tend to do, I tend to develop, like, my friends are my friends, and I try to, as much as, the business of the world. But a lot of them, they compartmentalize so much, you become dead to them after you leave because they just, it's a different friendship where, okay, I just don't stay in touch on to the next people. I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, it's easier now with social media and stuff like that and cell phones and stuff, but back then there was none of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I always wondered, we need to find somebody who's done Mexican radio because one of the funniest things that it was like in a by rock about ZZ Top. They were talking about Mexican radio and trying to go.
Right.
People are shooting at them on the way down there.
I
want to do that. No.
No.
It's like literally you're a DJ. Yeah, I have a real danger shot. What are you? I'm a Mexican radio DJ. I have to dodge the snipers in the hills.
So I guess that's that interests me, what you were saying. So it's not necessarily the people or the stations, that are changing and getting rid of people. It's more like people ladder climbing and wanting to go to bigger places.
Exactly. A lot of it is that. A lot of it's that. And a lot of it is, formats don't work, so they change it and they fire everybody, start out all new.
Right.
So that happens too.
Cleaning house.
That happens all the time.
I think the super, super cliche about the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes it's like, here's a big offer, come here, but you really like where you're at.
Yeah, I used to think I should have gone. Because, there were a couple of gigs that I came this close to taking. And then I thought, well, you know what? I knew what I was giving up, okay, by staying here, and I thought, well, let's make this really worthwhile, and I did. So I raised a family here, I got married here, and I have a nice life here. So I used to think I was a failure for not doing that, but then I thought, Don Alhart's not a failure. Doug Emledge's not a failure.
Not at all.
Ginny Ryan's not a failure. Why do you think
a career is a career?
Yeah.
I think it's a testament that you're comfortable in your own skin type of thing, and like you said with Weeze. Why, where would he go? He wouldn't have the pull someplace else.
He might develop it, if
it takes time.
It takes time. And exactly, that's the other thing. And I didn't want to start over from scratch.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to do that.
You got to build all your contacts and all that.
It's good to take advantage of people who are in industries to ask how true it was. How true to life is WKRP in Cincinnati?
Well, there's some truth to it.
No, turkeys do not fly.
No, turkeys do not fly. It's funny because when I was at CMF, we were in that little building on Layton Avenue.
Right.
And I was doing mornings. Uncle Roger's doing overnights. And he was like Venus Flytrap. He really was. He was that guy. Okay.
Yep.
He was the coolest guy. I loved Roger. I'd come in about a half hour early. We'd sit and we'd chat for he used to call it. Now it's time for our talk with Tony. And we would just chat on the air. And I loved him. He was so special.
Yeah, he was awesome. He let us come up there. We used to go there all kind of crazy hours, ring the bell, go up there and hang out. He cared about the music scene in Rochester.
I always get sad about that. I had the last time I ever saw him, and I'll never forget. It was very strange for me because I was in that transition from high school to college. I saw the Ramones at U of R. I was semi-hammered on vodka and lemonade. And Roger knew my brother and people I was with. Come up, we started talking. The big thing we started talking about is he really liked Van Halen's 5150 album that just came out. And we're talking to him, and then, unfortunately...
I just listened to that the other day. I saw Kevin DeHaan last night at Merv's. Remember Kevin from WSAY?
Do not.
Ages ago. He was a DJ on WSAY, the AM station.
But now when you got into like MJQ and everything here, what was the atmosphere like then?
Oh, God, it was so cool. Because I was 22 when I started. And we had two other guys there, Doug James and Al Peterson. And Doug was the morning guy. Peterson was middays afternoons, and he was our program director. And so it was just the three of us, basically. And we put it on the air. And it was, like I said, we did like the soft jazz and soft rock stuff mix. And for about a year that was successful, then it wasn't. So we went right into hard rock, and we went right at CMF. And we hired a consultant, who's now consulting XM. But we played the hits, basically, is what we did. Played the hits of the rock and roll area, and that kind of killed CMF a little bit.
But did you have do you have a say in what you were playing? Really?
No, not at all. No, nobody ever has.
I used to ask, and I honestly, memory favorite. My family knew someone who worked, either at BVF or someone. I was asking at a picnic about, playing like my brother's band or something. No. We would actually hear new Math really, really late at night on CMF sometimes.
Yeah,
really late.
Yeah.
But they explain just the logic of the business. People are turning the dial. Mm-hmm. You want to hear something
Exactly.
You stick on there.
Yeah.
What are we going to get people to stay on the air and listen to the ads?
I mean, that's the bottom line back then. Now it's. I mean, yes, everything's planned out. Every station has a format, and they follow. Preordained music that's picked by somebody. I don't even know who, to be honest with you.
Do they still have? I mean, they used to call them traffic managers where they schedule the commercials and things like that.
Yeah.
That's got to be an interesting.
It's
thing.
Not that interesting. I gotta be honest. No, it's an office job that I don't think is that interesting.
It's like the opposite of us. Like we have a show next week. Who's going to be on? I don't know. I'm to find out.
It's a spreadsheet job, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a spreadsheet job.
Now, going back to you when you grew up, what really for you grabbed you as music? That really could. I think if you're ergo, you were a DJ. You love music.
All right, well, I grew up on a steady diet of Beatles and Beach Boys and Motown. Those are my top three. And then that was in the 60s. In the 70s, it was Rod Stewart, James Taylor, Steely Dan, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Doobie Brothers, Genesis, Yes, those types of things. When I went on a cross-country trip, my son got a job in Oregon, so we drove out together, and I told him, I said, I don't know how you want to do it, if you want to get actual CDs or download these for your phone, but here's some records you got to get, okay, for the trip. And he did the same thing. He said, I'm going to turn you on to some of my stuff. So it was a great trip because he's a musician. And we just listened to music all the way out. And Grand Funk, okay, like one day he's texting me, he goes, you failed me as a father. I said, why is that? He goes, you failed to tell me how great Grand Funk Railroad was.
Oh my God, I love Grand Funk.
Yeah.
I wore out all their albums.
Yeah. And so, he's a guy with an album and a record player and all that stuff, because you know how kids are these days, they like the vinyl. I don't blame them. I think vinyl's wonderful, but I love having the stuff on my phone.
Yep.
I can plug into my car and just listen to one of those.
I admit I'm a CD person still.
Yeah.
I think it's like for comic books, I'm more like a trade person now. It's easier to keep everything else. But I remember like getting, like I have albums, I just wore the grooves out. I played so often.
I mean, I listened to Beatles constantly. And Beach Boys. I mean, and the funny thing is, the early Beach Boys stuff, the Cars and Surf and Girls, that was all fun stuff. I like that. But the stuff I like is Surf's Up and Sunflower. And Carl and a Passion's So Tough. These are albums that were not hits.
Right.
They had no hits, but they were beautiful. If you listen to the
Surf... Cork on the Ocean.
Exactly. You listen to that Surf's Up album, it's amazing. I mean, Till I Die.
Another one for me, and this was like a super flop, I think, with Sunflower.
I love Sunflower.
Water. Cool.
Yeah, Cool Water.
I never heard any of those.
Wow. You want to borrow those? Yeah. Actually, that one's signed by Al Jardine, so I have to take the thing out. Yeah. The funniest part about Al Jardine was, I could show it to you sometime, is he takes it, he signs it, then he writes, I used to live in Rochester in 1955-57. He puts his address down where he used to live. No, his dad taught it. Was it RIT?
I forget it was RIT.
Well, when Brian Wilson played, and God rest his soul, too.
Yeah.
And I could just go on about it. Oh, he deserved like such more happier life.
Yeah.
But I saw him in 2017. He literally walked off the stage mid-song one time as he did. But Al Jardine, it was more the Beach Boys than that other guy there.
Mike Love.
Yeah. Who's given all of us who are bald, who wear hats, a bad name. What he's going around as. But I think it was Blondie Chapman was in the band. Yeah. And Al Jardine, I said this in jest, he should look at his son's parentage because he sung Don't Worry Baby, his son did, and it sounded so much like Brian.
Well, his son,
at that show?
Yeah, I've met him and I met his son, and his son, a couple of times, his son Matt is an amazing musician. I remember one time I'd see him at Bruce Johnson was introducing the players, and he said, someday we're going to be opening for him, and he was talking about Matt, because Matt is a great musician. And he would play anything and did all the Brian parts for a while.
See, for me too, when I was younger, when you're young, you're in cars. Oh, this is cool. Mm-hmm. And Pet Sounds, it took me a little while.
Oh, it took everybody a little while
because it's like, what is? And I guess when Paul McCartney said they brought the acetates to some party in London, he heard this.
Bruce Johnson brought the tapes to play for Lennon and McCartney.
And then if you listen to, this is like one of my other summer albums. If you ever have any, you have Odyssey and Oracle by the Zombies.
That's
it's Pet Sounds.
Yeah,
I mean, this is Pet Sounds. Wow. I would say, I think it is. And I just think that people don't get the Beach Boys are like the yin yang when they started out.
Yeah.
And then they said Brian wanted a lot more.
Well, you think about it this way too. I mean, the Beatles were a boy band. Okay, at first. I mean, their audience was 12 to 16-year-old girls.
Right.
No different than NSYNC or any of those bands. Okay.
Right.
But then they progressed. I mean, you look at I Want to Hold Your Hand to Tomorrow Never Knows.
Right.
That was 3 years.
I know.
Okay.
What drugs will do to you.
Yeah. I think 2 years is what they were.
You think about what they did in 6 years' time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
8 years' time.
Well,
they were 8 years.
13-ish.
Yeah.
But they became popular.
Yeah.
60.
They were together since 1957.
Right.
They didn't hit till 63 in Europe and 64 here. So they were together before we knew of them.
Yeah,
I still have a copy of the Savage Young Beatles.
Oh, wow.
I won that. This is going to really take you back. So in my grammar school at St. Stan's on Hudson there, they had a bazaar or something, like in raffles and stuff. So I spun the wheel and I won, and I picked, because they were on the cover with the leather jackets. Oh, I'll take that. I had no idea what the hell it even was, but I thought it looked cool. Like we were always talking about how you buy albums by the picture. And stuff.
Yeah.
So I took that and I was like, okay, this is cool. And then after a while, I just hung on to it, but. Boy, it's Ruby Ya-Ya and,
everybody,
when we were Georgia kids, Brown.
When we were kids, you had to go to B. Foreman's, plunk your $2.99 down, get the double ELO albums, so you get the little spaceship. But my first album ever was Save My Paper Route Money. Got Beatles 67 to 60, the blue.
Oh, yeah, the blue.
Oh, yeah.
Then I got the Grease soundtrack.
Oh. God, what were you thinking?
I've got a copy of that album. I have a copy of that album that has the wrong songs on the last side.
That's kind of cool.
It goes from the 60s. Yeah, it goes from the 67 era ones, and on the last side, it's got stuff like like the early 60s stuff. Yeah. Like
I have like the ones, I mean,
which is weird.
The British and the I was going to say British UK, British US releases were different.
Yeah.
Some of the songs, but I have like
no, but I mean, what was printed on the thing isn't what they put on the record. So it's
I got like
weird.
Please Me on CD, the mono, and it's basically instrumental on my one player. Like, wait a second, where are the vocals?
We used to call it Beatles stereo when they first figuring out stereo. They didn't know how to mix it.
And a lot of it too is, and I go, this is not an insult at all. I just say we're performing. It's like on here or anything else, but like the Beach Boys. The only surfer was Dennis. But they were the Pendletons, and they did the surf image, the guitar, the surfing, the cars, and it wasn't really, but that's everybody. With the Beatles, because they were tough. They were playing tough living, while the Stones were these posh Londoners, art students. But then they were playing Hamburg. There's a famous picture somewhere of like John with a toilet seat around his head.
They
but
played
Brian Epstein
gigs.
made him into that boy band.
Yeah, he did. I mean, they were rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And he softened their image and. And I'm sure they hated it, but success.
I think
they were like the original punk band.
Once you do, I think you sell out to get in the door, and then you get the power, you can do what you want to do, and everything else. But that's I think now, and I think the other thing too is because there was never a reunion. There's something about magical about them. Yeah,
and and in a way, I'm glad that they never got back together because you couldn't top it. It was like you can't, and it was all organic the way they got together. It wasn't like the Prefab or the Monkees or these boy bands. And not to take anything away from NSYNC, they were good. I mean, they had good music. You got to listen. You got to figure how I look at it is NSYNC was my daughter's Beatles.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And you can't, I know they weren't as good as the Beatles. I'm not saying that. But to them, they were. Although my kids loved the Beatles, and I had nothing to do with it. I never forced my music on them. They discovered it on their own. And it was funny because I remember playing Paperback Writer for my son. He was about 8 or 9. I had the exact same reaction that I had the first time I heard it. Because I put it on. And his head went like, what? And that's, when I first heard Paperback Ride, Paper, I was like, holy cow, what are these guys?
That's my favorite album is Rubber Soul.
It's a great
album. I don't like doing absolutes like that.
Yeah, Rubber Soul and Revolver are my two. Tomorrow Never Knows is my favorite Beatles.
And I am like the one critic. I don't think Sgt. Pepper, to me, it's not my favorite.
I love the album. I think it's great.
But I like Abbey Road a lot better.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a little too much of George Martin's wizardry in the studio.
I can't blame him for that.
Again, it's some kind of weird science, but why do we have the taste we have and everything? I was lucky because I grew up around friends who was like all just what everybody was playing. But I had people in my family classical stuff, punk, so I grew all around on it, which is good. And everything else, but now when you go in the 70s too, I think there was we were talking about Raft Race and things like that.
That was
a good time. A little bit more. There was more.
That was a lot of fun.
Maybe because I was a kid, but there's a fun aspect there.
It was a lot of fun. When I was at MGQ, BBF was our sister station, so we all had to help out with Raft Race, and it was great. I mean, and you couldn't do that today simply because of the insurance.
Right.
People. I remember one guy had an airplane in there, and he had beautiful women in bikinis on the wings. It was a seaplane, and he just was going down the Genesee River in an airplane.
Greg, the floating drum set.
I know. The good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad we have to have so many limitations.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I remember the walks for water, too.
Hug for Hope.
Oh, wow.
You always knew, when you went to school the next day and everybody was limping.
Yeah. Who did it? Yeah. All this stuff was great. It's good community stuff, and that's what radio was big time. Yeah. It was big time like that.
How did your journey progress then to where you are been for eons now?
I know it. Well, I got a good thing going, and I kept it.
Right.
I was at Magic 92 for a few years, then CMF for about 4 or 5 years. I worked at WVOR for 9 years, and that's where I met my partner, D. Alexander. We were together for 21 years.
Damn.
We moved over from VOR to Warm, And then we got new ownership came in, and they didn't want to keep Dee because they wanted to cut expenses. And it was tough for a long time, to be honest with you. It's funny because, Greg was with us last week. We were playing at the Beachcomber. Greg's in a band with me. We're called Keys of the Cannon.
Oh, wow. You're in a band with Greg. Shorten the list there.
How many are you in now?
4.
4, okay.
I'm cutting it down. I might get a guest maybe next week you're in a band with, if I could find one.
So we were playing at the Beachcomber, and these young girls were, on the dance floor and stuff. And so I was introducing the people in the band, and I introduced myself. And these young girls, they couldn't have been maybe 25. Right? They went, oh, Tony and Dee. It's like, she hasn't been on the air with me for 16 years.
Damn.
16 years.
I remember that.
And that was a show that, and it just happens that show was pretty popular, and people still refer to it as
you had a brand, which is good. I mean, in my mind, I mean, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but the morning shift, the morning drive, or whatever they want to call it, that gives you a bit of leverage because that's very important.
That's the most personable time to be. Yeah, that's why you do morning radio. That's why you get up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's not natural. It's not natural. I've been doing it for almost 50 years. So
How is that?
I wonder about that sometimes.
And again, any job, like a night job, I've always said the best thing if you have a night job, stay up till around 2 if you got to go in at 11, go to sleep. I would just stay up. But how is, when you hear that, you have to prepare mentally.
It's tough to be on at 5:30 in the morning.
When I wake up in the morning.
And you got to be like right there.
Right.
I have it a little easier now because I mostly work from home. I live like an hour away from the station, so they cut me some slack and let me work from home. And it's great. You couldn't tell if you were listening. And I'll go in a few times a week or something, maybe a couple times.
Yeah, we're broadcasting from a crab shack in Idaho.
Right, nobody knows. I mean, the technology is such that you don't need to be in this.
Go bop it over the head with the mask.
That's right.
Yeah. So I get to stay up later and sleep a little later. But still, it's you got to be on. Years ago, I met Rodney Dangerfield. And we were, I stayed. He did 2 shows, and I stayed for each one because I wanted to. I always study comedians. It's funny when I go to concerts. My wife, when we first got together, we went to a Beach Boys concert, and I'm sitting in the stands. I'm learning. I'm not really digging. I'm not dancing.
Right.
I'm learning. I'm looking at everybody's, and she thought I wasn't having any fun. I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. That's just what I do. I'm studying." So I went to see Rodney Dangerfield. I had done the commercials for his New York tour, so I went to the first show, and after I went backstage and talked to him for a while, and then went back to the second show. But in between, I asked him, I said, because he did the exact same jokes at the exact same time, took a drink of water at the exact same time. I mean, everything. It's right down. And I said, so, how do you, psych yourself up for doing the show? He says, you're in the radio in the morning? I said, yeah. He goes, when you get there, it's showtime. It's
right.
End the conversation. It's showtime. And I remember talking to Jay Leno. I've had him on my show a few times. He's a real nice guy, and he remembers every show. He's like a baseball player, remembers every hit, every strikeout.
Wow.
He remembers every freaking show. And
that's cool.
And so, I was talking to him about it. He goes, I've actually fallen asleep on stage doing my show because he's got it down in his head so much that he can separate himself from what he's doing, and his brain is thinking of something else as his mouth is saying the words to the show that he's put together. He's been doing it forever. Even when he was doing the Tonight Show, making $70 million a year, some ridiculous number, he would go out on the weekends and do shows in towns like Rochester. He would, just because that he loves doing it.
Didn't he even like to stick his Tonight Show money and stick it in stuff because he had enough money from stand-up?
Yeah, he never spent.
That's actually a good lesson for everybody out there. It's okay if you fall asleep during your show. Just hope the audience doesn't fall asleep during your show.
I know he gets a bad rep because of the Conan thing and stuff. I understand it, but I think I would blame NBC more than him.
And I also look. None of us are perfect. The business is business,
the management is not always the smartest.
They should
guy in the room.
They were afraid of losing Conan, so they made a deal that Jay would go. Jay was number one when you don't get rid of somebody who's number one, plain and simple. And I like Letterman better. I like the show better, but you don't get. He wasn't number one. Leno was number one. You don't get rid of the number one guy.
That's like from my youth. That was a big thing. We always had to get home for late night with Dave, 12:30. my friends would smoke cigarettes.
Were those live?
No,
they were taped.
I actually went to a recording of one of the Letterman shows. It was funny. I went with, you may know this guy, Bruce Pilato.
Oh, yeah.
We were in New York City together, and we went into NBC, and we said, here for the Letterman show, and she pointed us to an elevator. So we went out the elevator, we got off the elevator, and we're in the green room.
Right.
She mistook. We were here to stand in line. She thought we were here to do something.
Right.
We're in the green room. And I'm going, no, we can't stay here. And she's going, no, we got to stay here. I said, no. So I want to see the show. They're going to kick us out. So we stayed in the green room, and we walked through the green room from the stage up to our seats. Oh, man, this is crazy. And then Dave came out and did the warm-up himself. He came right up to our seats, and it was because we were in the middle, and he was talking to the crowd. It was just kind of cool. And I was at the Carson show once, and that was I was there with Richard Pryor. I was there. That was really cool. But Letterman, I always liked his sense of humor. It was right to the little 45 angle on everything, but it was kind of, it was interesting. And I love his show now on Netflix. My next guest needs no introduction.
Yeah.
And he's really stretching out in the interviews and really, and I love what he's doing with it. It's great.
How is that perspective, too, from all the years of dealing with what I call names, that you could tell that when you deal with them, like some thoughts on that, or like interesting characters?
Everybody's a real person. Everybody's a person.
That's
most people a lot of them are like, can't believe they're there. Okay, how did I get here? It's like, I always kid my wife that song by Talking Heads. How did I get here? How did I have this beautiful wife, this big house? I feel that way sometimes too with my life, because it's like, I'm just being me. How the hell did
maybe there's a point to be learned there.
Yeah.
I like to hear people say that because they put so many celebrities on a pedestal. From my limited experience, especially with musicians who I've known or friends who've done something or in show business, they're just you. They're just people out there.
Yeah.
They're playing a role or doing something, but
they're just, Well, I always tell people that I get paid to be Tony Infantino, and I'm uniquely qualified for the position. And I'm just lucky that way because, that's why I never judge people on what they end up doing, because I've had it pretty easy. I did pay some dues, of course, and do some things, but I've found my thing, and I never want to retire. I can't imagine not doing this.
Right, basically you're a fixture. You really are. You're an institution.
Well, I think that's another thing too. Like, people are getting up every morning, and they don't know you really. You're a great guy. We always butter up.
Is there a story behind?
Send me the check.
Oh, sorry. Is there a story behind you? Giving up the stage moniker and going back to your regular?
Yeah, what happened is when I was 22 years old, I got the job at Magic, and my program director, Al Peterson, did not know that there was a pretty huge contingent of Italians in Rochester.
No!
Yeah, he wasn't from here, and he did not know that there was... Now, I'm not related to the people that own the restaurant, Infantino's, but if you go down Lake Avenue back then, there was a sign that was 3 stories high that said Infantino's, right? He didn't know anything about that, so he asked me to change my name 5 minutes before I went on the air. So I said, fine. I hated it, and I did it for 20 years, but then on my 20th anniversary, the newspapers did a story on me, and Eugene Marino was the reporter, and we went out to lunch, and I basically told him that story, and that I've hated it ever since, and I spelled my name Infantino for him, and the next day in the paper it's my name. And so, and then I went into my general manager. I said, I'm using that from now on. He goes, by all means.
I'm dying about the no Italians because I grew up in Gates.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah, I grew up in Gates. So,
there's a few Italians in Gates.
Yeah, soccer was a national sport. I still have my Ricky Davis ball and everything.
So, but I prefer to be me than somebody else. And I hated it, and my father hated it, too. He was really
What, are you not proud of your family name?
He was just prejudiced. I said, Dad, it's just show business.
I only found out maybe within the last 5 years when a relative died. This isn't like my real last name either. It was like the typical Ellis Island thing when they couldn't spell the name.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
I would have had a Polish name, but my father's changed it.
And everything. But I think you become... They don't know you. Maybe they'll meet you sometime, but you become a friend. You become somebody you're waking up with every morning.
You invite me into your living room, your bathroom, your kitchen, your car, your bedroom. That's an honor, is what that is.
Watch out for that stop sign.
So when they invite you into those places, and you're basically usually it's not a whole family listening to the radio. It's maybe the one or two people in the kitchen, one person in the car. So yeah, you basically are their companion, and that's what you hope to be. That's what you. I was never one of those guys who was, you've heard these jockeys out there. Hey, everybody, it's,
right.
I call them pukers. Hey, it's the big 101.3. It's like, no, people say to me, use your radio voice. Well, I do. This is my voice.
Yeah, right.
I never did that whole thing.
Yeah, I never, that's always been, well, I think that's part of the appeal. Mm-hmm. When people listen to you and Dee or whoever you're with, it's I don't know. It's just relaxed.
Yeah, that's
it goes with the music too.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to be all bombastic and then be playing bread,
right? So basically, our lives are our audience lives. I mean, my partner Christy has a 16-year-old boy, so we talk a lot about that, what he's going through, and all this stuff, because that's what our audience is going through. We've always done that.
Yeah, what is the setup now? Because I end up listening, but I always forget who's
Christy Credit is my co-host, and Nikki Rudd is our news person. Yeah. And we have a few contributors. Like on Tuesdays, I have a woman named Pam Sherman. She's a suburban outlaw, and this woman is amazing. She's an author, a lawyer, an actor, and she's a consultant. So basically, she goes around the world talking to, Fortune 500 companies, doing seminars. And she said, she goes, as a lawyer, I used to tell CEOs what not to say. Now I tell them how to say it. And so she has a new book coming out. On Thursdays, I have a woman named Joan Lincoln, who is. She she just sold a place called Panache, but she's been in the fashion industry, and she's one of the people responsible for Fashion Week of Rochester and all that stuff. So that's her shtick. And then Deborah Ross has a website called kidsoutandAbout.com, and she's in 60 markets, but she's based here. And so she basically, if you want to know what's going on for the weekend for your kids, if you got kids, you go to that site. And we have a link on Warm to her site.
Great.
And so she has a book coming out. She was one of the people about all the big stuff that happened here with the eclipse. Most of that was because of her. And so she has a book coming out with a co-writer from Forbes magazine. It's coming out in, I think, November. It's called The Eclipse Effect, and how to rally a community around an event.
Huh.
That's her thing.
Yeah, we had my friend Beth Bailey, who was part of the committee for the eclipse, and we had her on. Mm-hmm. It eclipsed the popularity of all the rest of our shows before that.
Yeah. So, and that was very. So, yeah, I've had these, and these are all, women business owners who, and our audience is mostly women, and it's important to have that representation. And I'm proud to say that. Not only are they good at what they do, they're personable, and sometimes they're funny, but whatever it is, it's human, and that's what my show is all about.
My interaction with Pam Sherman was I walked past her during the intermission at a ballet and asked her one time. It was a big one. It was like when I met Geddy Lee.
Yeah. That's funny.
On the canal.
Yeah, that's my old story. Is Rush was playing at Darien Lake on 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
I'm walking my dog. Geddy Lee goes by on a bike. And my friends are all big. They're like, what happened? And I'd love to tell a story. It was like, hey, I got you backstage. We hung out. Yeah. No, he said hi. I said hi.
Yeah.
And they go, it counts, doesn't it? But that's and also in terms of format and everything, now it's easy listening. Would you call it?
We call it adult contemporary.
I don't like that always definition. But you have to do it.
Well, we're adult contemporary, which means our audience is mostly 30 to 50-year-old family, women, mostly women. I think our audience is 70% women, 30% men. There's a lot of young. It's funny. There's a lot of lately. Our audience has gotten younger, 20 to 25. Big listenership there, and for some strange reason, we've had the best ratings in the last 20 years, and I have no idea.
I think I know why, though. I think because we're missing. This is why I think radio will always be with us. I could picture as a kid the lights out with the radio on, just listening. I think there's still. Especially these days with social media, AI, we want that human element. We don't want something recorded. Something. Right. Here is the next song.
Yeah. That's what it comes. As far as I'm concerned, that's what makes any form of communication, whether it's this podcast or a radio broadcast, a human element. You have real people. People like to relate to people, not machines.
Right.
Well, I've been shocked because we've had a couple guests on, and Rob Smith sticks out in my head that they would just talk to you about. We're having a conversation, I just like having a conversation again because nobody does it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not like looking at my phone doing. Well, Greg does because he's got 5,000 gigs. And,
How many gigs you playing this summer?
Oh my God, probably at least 20.
Oh,
now, how did that segues in? How did you get involved with playing?
I was thinking about that the other day. How did we get together? Because I knew you like 50 years ago, and I hadn't seen you in 12
years. I have no idea.
And you
actually.
ended up at my house one day when I used to do a thing at my house on Canisius Lake called Tunes at Tony's. I'd have my band come out. I'd invite other musicians. And we'd get the neighborhood. I'd invite the neighborhood. We'd bring food and blah, blah, blah.
That's what it was. I heard you had food.
So I don't know, but how you ended up at my house, or did I see you before that? I have no idea how this happened.
I don't know exactly. Maybe did Reinhardt get me? Or
You're living your hat, Greg.
Yeah. I don't know. So, but you know, and then when he showed up, I remembered him from a zillion years ago, and then he plays drums, and it's great. And I've had a few different drummers in the band. And, you know, and we've, my little band's been together.
Yeah, what is your musical
evolution? I have
evolution?
a lot of fun with you guys.
How did you start playing, and what's your musical evolution?
Well, back in the 80s, I've been middle school, I was in bands. Well, 6th grade, I started my first band. And I was playing all through middle school and high school. And then, you know, college, I would play acoustic guitar with a friend of mine. On Thursday nights, we'd get together. And then after college, I started working in radio, and I just kept playing guitar and stuff. And then after I was in Nick and the Nice Guys in the 80s for about 9 years, and we traveled around the country.
Yep, I did a little of that.
That was so much fun. I mean, it started out as just a local band, and then we got all these gigs all over the country, and that was. I would do that all my life.
You like football games and stuff like that.
NFL stuff, Olympic stuff. It was great. We got to play so many cool gigs. I mean, we've played in front of 50,000 people in San Diego, and I got to tell you something, that'll blow your mind.
Right.
It'll just blow your mind. And then I left that, and I stopped playing for a long, long time. And then it's funny, I got together with Joe Briccato and Ethan Porter,
all right.
and Andy here at the studio. And started playing again, and then I was with my friend Reinhard Brooker, and I said, I haven't done anything in a long time, I need a fix. And he says, let's start a band. I said, well, I was just thinking of sitting in with somebody. And he goes, well, I said, I don't know anybody. He goes, I know everybody. So we put together a band. And then it's changed over the years. We've evolved, but it's always been Reinhard, Brian Benton, and me. And the lineup we have now is, I think, fantastic. We got Chris McKay on guitar, who's like
he's
otherworldly. He's like otherworldly, isn't he?
Plus all the setup he does with the sound. This guy's amazing.
And then John Bucci on bass. John used to own a store called the Music Store in Webster. And he can play guitar like anybody. He plays bass in our band. I keep telling him, man, you should play guitar. But he's so good. And Brian Benton can play harmonica, trumpet, guitar, and sing his ass off.
Right.
And then Reinhardt and me and Tom Homer is he's most of our. I mean, Neil Hazelin sits in once in a while as our keyboard player, but Tom Homer has been with us for about, I don't know, 5-6 years now. And these guys are. I mean, I have what they call impersonation. What's that word I'm looking for? Imposter syndrome, because I play a little guitar. I can sing okay, but these guys are musicians. I mean, Greg, this kid can play drums like you can't believe. And so I'm like, I have imposter syndrome with this band. And I always said, you know, if you surround yourself with talented people, will raise you up. And the same thing I did on the air. I mean, Dee Alexander was one of the best personalities in the world. Christy Credit is unbelievable. I've had Doug Ebledge as my news guy, Pat McGonigal, the guy that used to work at Channel 10. He's up in Kansas City now. Nikki Rudd. All these people are just brilliant at what they do. And I'm just fortunate to be around them.
I mean, you got to have that upfront personality too, because you don't want to hear me do shtick because I suck. I'm very corny, you know.
But you know, but like I've always said, surround yourself with talented people, and I've been lucky enough to do that.
I think that's the thing, though. You should have confidence, but not ego. That's when you open your mind and
you
want. And I remember we all played in high school bands, but I played bass and. We called their band Feedback because our amp sucked. And I had the best story because I went to sell my amp, and this thing was like, whoo. So I take it down to the store on Ladder Road, and there's a guy who looks like David Lee Roth, and I'm like, am I going to get $5 for this? I hear him go in the back room, play guitar. I'm like, I'm going to give it to him. He's like, Take 75. Oh,
yeah.
I'm taking a run off
exactly.
here and everything. But I realize I always like to do, like everything I've done in my life, I like to do a certain level of competence. And I realize, like, I sucked. And I'm honest about it. And I think you have to, and the thing was, like, one of my really good friends is Rob Mount, who he's played with Lou Gramm, he's played with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
okay.
He's never stopped. So when you're playing with somebody like that, you could barely hit like the notes on them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think, but then when you surround yourself, that's how you get better, when you open your mind, okay, I want to start doing this, this person's better, and you're not like defensive about it.
Right, no, you got to play it better. You play the caliber ball you're playing against. That's what I've always thought about sports. Right. If you're playing a crummy team, you're going to play crummy because you're lackadaisical. You're playing a good team, you're going to be...
Right.
So I feel the same way in music. You get people who are really good, and you try to work up to their level. Now, I'll never be at the level of these guys in my band, but I can tell you, I've learned so much. We've been together for like 18 years with this band, and I can only imagine what I sounded like 18 years ago and what I sound like now. Hopefully it's a lot better.
Like if you've listened to yourself. Like
you're a great singer, though. You front the band well.
Like when we first started this, it's like, these are horrible.
Well, it's funny, too, when you stick around long enough, like they always say, longevity. Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually things cycle around. Like, I used to play with Don Mancuso years ago. In the 70s. I played with Dick Grammatico when he, you know. But
Dickie and I grew up together.
Right. And then... And then I've been playing with Donnie lately in a country band because he called me. He played on one of my originals, and that I have to play for you.
Funny story with Dickie. When we were kids, I taught him the notes on the guitar, right?
Yeah.
Well, about a week later, he's amazing, and I suck. So I forgot if I traded hammers. I had a nice Gretsch Duo Jet. I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
It was black. It was,
God,
man. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I thought, I'm never going to play guitar like him. I got rid of it. I got a Hofner bass. And I started playing bass because I said, there's no way. This kid, I literally taught him the notes of the guitar in literally 3 weeks. He was amazing.
Wow.
And I was like, are you kidding me? The whole family was him. And the mother sang and played piano. Yep. The father, of course, had the Gate Swingers. His brother Benny was a great drummer. I'd put him on par with Steve Gadd. I really would.
Oh, yeah, he's excellent.
Yeah, and then, of course, Lou, and then Richard. We were, from like 3rd grade to 7th grade, we were inseparable.
And I think you also now, like, for what you do, you provide a very necessary service these days. Because I don't know about both of you, but times are kind of nuts, out there. And it's like nice when you get like a mellow voice and just...
people ask me if I talk about politics on the show. I said, no, every other idiot in the radio is doing that. I don't want to be that guy.
We were talking like some history about it before the show, which is fine.
Yeah, I want my place to be my show to be an oasis from that.
It's like a getaway.
There's enough people doing it.
When we started this, my thing is like to promote local things. We talk nonsense sometimes, bring people in, but it's like leave that at the door. Yeah. It's like I
was saying this to my wife the other day. To me, the lowest form of communication is sports radio.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly it's jocks or former jocks or guys who've never thrown a baseball saying, the Yankees suck. They got to put this guy in and this guy. Listen,
armchair
exactly.
quarterbacks.
It's like you just, it's easy for you because you're at a microphone. You're not doing anything important. I feel the same way about most political people. They've never run for office. They've never done a public service. And I get you can disagree or agree with whomever, who's in power. I understand that, and we all have our thoughts about that. But the vitriol gets ridiculous, and I want my show to be an oasis from that. Just come here and have fun. We got you for 23 minutes, okay? Right. Between the time you get up, put the radio on, you get in your car, you get to work, 23 minutes is probably all I got. And I want to give you a little bit of here's what's happening.
I don't want to down you while you're on your way to work.
I want you to give you a little chuckle, and I want to give you a couple of your favorite songs. And the story. I mean, it's not brain surgery.
Right.
You remember?
It's a good philosophy.
It's like you have the perfect story. Well, I hung with these 2 idiots on Sunday. But you have to remember the Chris Everett incident with Jim Everett.
Yes.
When he just tried to... And I'm thinking exactly what you said. This guy's never played. Right. And I think a lot of them are bitter because they were the ones who didn't play.
I got to play
and
I
I get hatred here because I'm a Dodgers fan, but I'll go put on MLB Network. Mm-hmm. It's like, will you guys just shut up and show the game?
I know. I do like the guys in the morning, though. Rowe and I don't know their names. No. Mark Rowe. I can't.
But there was a Sabres Buffalo announcer. This was before Sabres games, and the reason I liked the guy though was he was such a curmudgeon, like about all Buffalo teams. And then the one Yankee, and I grew up on PIX for the Yankee games. and they were great. But there was like the two guys later on who it was kind of interesting, like Abner and Costello, because they seemed like they really hated each other, which is always fun.
I like listening to Michael Kay with Paul O'Neill. Yeah. I love Paul O'Neill. He's so down to earth, and he's funny. And he's just self-deprecating, and I think he's terrific. And I like Michael Kay a lot. He gets a lot of grief from viewers and stuff, but I like him. I think he's a good
the golden days of like Rizzuto and Kiner.
Yeah.
Because Kiner was just so befuddled.
I know. And Rizzuto was just, I mean, those guys.
The best ever.
Holy cow.
He was
just one of my Tony Kubek.
Yeah.
Okay, and when he was with Kurt Gotti, but after that with Joe Garagiola, I always said it wasn't two announcers. It was two guys who went to a ball game. Instead of drinking beer, they had microphones, and that's because they're human.
That was the funniest ever. Rizzuto was crocked on wine, and you hear him. He's bombed, and you hear the fade out. You can hear him go, man, I blew this in. But whenever I thought about that, we talked about celebrities a little bit, how they're people. Do you have any other interests, or what do you like to do besides radio?
Oh, well, like being...
Greg does it because all he does is drum.
I know.
Pretty much, yeah.
I like being on my boat, and I love... Like even coming here this morning, I take country roads as much as I possibly can, and I like to get lost. And since I got my license, I remember being 16 years old, getting in the car and just driving out in the country, and I would get lost, and then I'd look for the Xerox tower, and I'd find my way back to civilization. And so I still do that now. And I remember one time I had a little MG, and I love being with the top down, and I was with my son. We were heading out to our place in Canisius Lake, and I took some, route that I never took before, and I got lost, which was the idea. And I said, well, we did it. We're lost. And my son said, oh, boy, what now? I said, no, that's the good part.
I know. I love doing that. Like, coming back from Bristol, I've taken different ways, and I don't even know where I am. I don't bother looking it up. I just figure, okay, I got to go south or north.
Exactly.
I just go in that direction. I find something.
That. I think that's something lost now because of the era of GPS, and I've lost
I have
my...
a rule.
I just lost my sense of, because I used to just go, oh, where are you going to go today? Oh, we're going to go to Toronto. Find your way there. Which way do we go back home? We go right.
Yeah.
When I'm driving in the country, my wife and I have a rule. First of all, no GPS unless you're really, you got to get someplace. And you can never go back the way you came. So if you're driving out like today, I'll go a different route home. And the way here, I took a road I never took before, and I saw some roads off of it that I said, well, my wife's out of town right now, so when she gets back, I got to take her to that.
And I love, because like for my business, we would travel like the back roads, the stuff you see. Is the back roads in New York all over the place.
This is a beautiful state.
Whenever I go to CMAC, I always go through Bloomfield.
Yeah.
I take 5 and 20 there, and then you end up right by the marina.
Yeah.
Right. And no, you avoid 332 because everybody's going that way, and you get there way faster.
Well, it's like when my buddy David Questa got rented to Geneva at the country club. He's from there. I routed it in the back, and the irony of it was you see the giant bread places, all the cool back things in the autumn. Nobody could find the church when you were in Geneva, though. And it goes back how we go like in tangents, but we come around. He's a huge Beach Boys fan, so they played "Wouldn't It Be Nice" at his wedding, and we missed that because nobody could find the church. It's like, take me to the church. But I missed it. I saw my friend Adriana play in Geneseo, of all places. I've been to Geneseo how many times? And I'm like having like a minor panic attack about getting to Geneseo. And it's just strange. And I want to get
south,
back,
baby.
like
just get there.
Just go. It's like, how do you get Kentucky? This way and walk.
Well, sometimes I get mixed up. Like when I went to the show we did at Remedy, for some reason, I thought it was on 5 and 20 and not on 96. So I did look it up, and it said Route 96. Fuck. So, okay. So I did. I took a road. I knew it was that way, to the left, so I just took a left. I figured I'm going to come out somewhere, and there was 96, about 10 miles down.
I was the map person. I could read. So here's a good question. What's like the worst you got lost? Pick one.
I'll pick one. I was with, this is years ago with my wife. We had the MG at the time. and we were on Cuca Lake. My brother had a place on Cuca Lake, and we were driving, and we were going to come home. We lived in Webster at the time, and I said, well, we'll just drive. Well, I got to a part where we got to a dirt road that had divots the size of my MG.
Wow.
And that was the first time I said, okay, we're going to have to consult. This was when GPS was new. That's how long it was. But we got there, and there was no cell service. So I said, okay, now we have to do, which I hate to do, is turn around.
Right.
I don't like to turn around. I like to fight through it. But we were in a place that was so remote, somewhere near Cuca Lake. Don't know where I was to this day, okay? So we actually turned around and got back to civilization. That's the one time that I've turned around. I like driving through. Like, I'll end up the other day, we were driving, road turned into a dirt road. And I got a nice car now. I don't like driving into the dirt road. And I said, okay, I got to do it. So we drove through it, and we got there. But, you know, we've been in areas where I say, okay, this is diddle-ding-ding-ding area.
Yep.
And you get a little scared.
A-Tree? What do you do, A-Tree? You all lost.
You know, I mean, I played a lot of these. When I played with this one band called the Boogeyman or something, and it was Rick Walders and Jack Nealon. And anyway, so they had a lot of gigs in Watkins Glen and Montour Falls and all these. And I played with this other band called Dilf. And a lot of their shit was in Auburn and, you know, but you get to know the area.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know back roads, and a lot of people don't. I'm like, oh, I can get there this way. And they're like, how the hell do you know how to do?
Yeah.
Because when my friend McHale played a place at Weedsport, like almost by Broken Arrow, and trying to find the stuff. There was like a teenage reform penitentiary. There's a drive-in. It's like one of those.
And a bar.
And there's a bar called Big Johnson's.
Oh, geez.
And I'm seeing this going, well, this is... And I'm telling her,
God.
Look, if I get lost, you're going to go... And then it's like these dirt tracks where the bar is, and she's playing this Big Johnson's. It's like...
God. You should open up a Hooters next door.
That's right.
It's like by... Well, you know, there's a Uranus Fudge Factory.
I did not know about
that. No, there is. They serve good fudge, too. I buy gifts from them.
Well,
that one got me, and the other one...
Straight from Uranus.
We were going to Auburn. My friends had a cottage at Auburn, and it turned literally, we go through Seneca Falls, and the unfortunate thing, if you do this, do not follow a friend who is like worse in directions than you. And we go there, it was like National Lampoon's European Vacation when they got into the traffic circle. We kept going around. But then I went back to the Penny Arcade afterwards with my friend's sister, and she was like perfect with it, like literally amazing. But that's like, we got to have a sense of adventure again like that.
Yeah.
Just none of that canoeing deliverance stuff.
No, but I like getting lost in the country. And the countryside where I lived down in South Bristol, and it's just so beautiful. The hills are just...
People give it a bad rap, too. Like, a bunch of dumbasses and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, it's community. It's different. People give a crap about people out there.
You know what I like, too? Like all the bizarre museums. It's like a salt... What do you have for a salt museum? They got a Jello museum in Roy.
I've been there to the Jello museum.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah?
So, years ago.
Well, what I did was I was collecting the shirts
museum
for a while. So I have like a different... Like I have a lime shirt. I have a purple shirt. And everything else. But there's all these like roadside attractions. You find the weirdest in America. It's like there's like this saying about England and America. And in England, 200 miles is a long way. In America, it's a long time.
Yeah.
We're a young country.
How many
you want to find the
signs?
You want to find the balls of string or the wacko museums or flea markets or whatever.
I like coming across weird things like that. When we lived in Canisius Lake, we just end up in the country someplace, and I don't even know where it is now or how I got there because I don't pay attention. But there was Tin Man, Scarecrow, Dorothy, and a lion, like life size, okay, made out of something, I don't know, just in some front lawn somewhere. And they were there for years. I'd end up back there, you know, a couple of years after, again, not knowing how, and see those same things again. I couldn't get you there now if I had to, but it's like, how weird is that? What's this person got?
There's like a town called Albin. They have an alpaca farm, and there's like by Darien, it's like Christmas lights on all year, and you find these like weird antique things. A giant bowling pin bigger than that next to an old Ottawa Senators jersey. It's like, this is what I live for.
Yeah, it's all the weird stuff that's out there. It's just fun to come across.
There's this house. When I go to like Manchester or Palmyra, I have a different way to go to that too. I take Fisher's Road off 104, and it's like one road, and then after a while you go past the the Mormon place there, Hill Cumorah, and then you end up in the center of Palmyra, and then you go straight through, and you hit the thruway or whatever. It shaves off a lot. Anyway, so there was this house, and it had a tree right in the front, and they had a tree house, but the tree house was made of, like, aluminum siding or something. And they had like a frame, and then they put siding pieces on, and it was like, it sat in this tree, and it was like a redneck tree house. I loved it. It was
I know a good friend of mine just went to Lily Dale. It's where the Fox spiritual. Yeah. But I had the other one I'll leave on to talk about road trips. I was in Corning, and you'll never know this one. It was like sort of like a comedy where the first thing they say, you got to try our pizza. It's the best. We could not find a pizza place. So I'm thinking it's a hidden treasure for only people who live
in Corning?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
She's
weird.
like, you got to try our pizza. And then the other one I got was like by Trumansburg. Have a burger for gas stations. These burgers are pretty good. Little things to know when you're on a trip.
I'm going to be going to Trumansburg this summer.
It's different though out there, like Corning and that. They're a little more hippie-ish, esoteric. They want to go with the off the track kind of cuisine, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what I like. I like the diversity. People don't get that. They think it's New York City, then they think it's...
Yeah, I know.
But this has been lots of fun. We even hit the surface, I think.
It's all right. So what's the name of this podcast?
Carnival of
Randomness.
You might have known.
I just meandering. Okay, Carnival of Randomness.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for a bit. It's been fun. And we're going to play one of your songs at the end here.
Yeah, I mean, we'll give it...
and where can we tune into you and everything, because we should know this.
Warm 101.3, 6 to 10, Monday through Friday. And then come see our band. Greg's going to be with us July 12th.
What is the name of the band?
Keys to the Caddy.
Yep, at the Beachcomber.
And then we got August 1st in Henrietta at the park there with the amphitheater, and then the 7th will be at Baytown Plaza.
That should be interesting.
That'll be fun. I mean, it's the first gig there. It's a car show they do every Thursday night, and they hired us. Then we got one more. Actually, we're playing at my condo place.
Right.
Bristol Harbor. Yeah, they hired us last year. They asked us back this year. So yeah, and what my goal is to try to get some more festival gigs.
Last year when I played that thing at your house, you remember? Oh my God, I'm blanking out here. The guy from the Eastman there, the timpani guy, John Beck. John Beck was there with his wife.
I didn't
know that. And he came up to me, and he goes, I like your kit. And I'm like, oh, hi, how you doing? And he goes, yeah, you play very well. And I'm like, okay. Well, I'm like, holy shit. John Beck told me I'm okay.
I didn't know. He's there this year. Introduce me.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
And Greg, of course, just look up, see any bands playing. It's the summer.
Usually him, huh?
It'll be Greg.
I'm usually there. I know. That's like my claim to fame is that I don't stay home.
Slate. Instead of the Hot Sun, what song are you going to play?
Well, it's actually a song that I wrote when I was about 12 years old. I don't even know if I have a name for it, to be honest with you. What happened is when I was taking guitar lessons when I was a little boy, and I came across this little chord combination that I liked, so I just started playing it, and then I added a couple of different things. And then over the years, it's always been in my head to turn this into like an instrumental with lush violins and timpanis and this and that and flutes and stuff. But as I don't have money to hire an orchestra. So about a year and a half ago, my son came home for Christmas, and he brought his little keyboard, like 2 feet long, max. Right. And it has all these sounds on it. And he learned from Andy because he took piano lessons from Andy when he was like 11. So I said, here's what I hear, and then he heard some stuff, and so we just put it together, and it's a beautiful instrumental that I'm pretty proud of, and I don't really have a name for it yet.
Well, we'll call it You Heard It, You Name It. But thanks a lot, man.
Tony's Tune.
Tony's Channel, the Hot Sun.
Yeah. But thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
I'll see you on the radio.
Yep.
All right.